Less than a month after Robert E. Lee surrendered his Confederate Army on April 9, 1865, Union General-in-Chief Ulysses Grant wrote, "All the people except a few political leaders in the South will accept whatever Lee does as right and will be guided to a great extent by his example." Beyond the courage to surrender, Lee also had the wisdom to know how. After his soldiers stacked their arms, he persistently advised that Southerners respect government authority, both state and federal. Following the surrender of other Confederate armies over the next 2 months, he increasingly encouraged Southerners to reconcile with Northerners. Shortly after Lee died in 1870, his family gave biographer J. William Jones personal access to Lee's letters. Of that time, Jones wrote, "When I had the privilege of examining his private letter book, I found it literally crowded with letters advising his old soldiers and others to submit to all authorities and become law-abiding citizens." To wartime Virginia Governor John Letcher, he wrote in August 1865, "The interests of Virginia are the same as those of the United States. Its prosperity will rise or fall with the welfare of the entire country." The following month, he urged a Confederate Navy captain to take President Andrew Johnson's amnesty oath, even though many Southerners considered it humiliating. Lee himself had taken the oath, notwithstanding that it provided no certainty of pardon in his case, whereas forgiveness was routine for the common soldier. Although some Confederate leaders fled the United States, he never considered it. When fellow Virginian Matthew Fontaine Maury invited him to join a Confederate colony in Mexico, Lee replied in September 1865, "The thought of abandoning the country and all that must be lost is abhorrent to me. I prefer to struggle for its restoration and share its fate." The following year, he advised General Jubal Early, who was preparing a narrative of his wartime operations as a Lee subordinate, "I recommend that you omit all epithets or remarks calculated to excite bitterness or animosity between the different sections of the country." He characteristically fostered conciliation through many private letters that became widely circulated rather than by seeking credit on a public platform. Even though his father was once a Virginia governor, in 1867, Lee turned down the, quote, "prevailing wish," close quote, that he run for the office himself. In response to petitioner State Senator Robert Ould, he answered, "I think it important in selecting a candidate to choose one not liable to the misconstruction which their choice of one objectionable to the Washington government would be sure to create." As Washington College trustees had hoped, Lee's appointment as president led to a surge in donations and student applications, but it was the general's leadership that kept the school improving and growing. When he arrived in October 1865, it had but 40 students and 4 faculty. 4 years later, 400 students attended commencement, compared to 130 at the University of North Carolina, 500 at the University of Virginia, 710 at Yale, and 960 at Harvard. Guided by the principle that, quote, "You should not force young men to do their duty, but let them do it voluntarily and thereby develop their characters," close quote, Lee promoted the self-governance and honor code that remain W&L's signature characteristics today. By treating students as responsible gentlemen, he molded them into men who would govern themselves. To discipline such students, Lee appealed to a self-awareness of the maturity growing within them. He once called an academically superior student to his office for missing classes. When the boy said that he had missed them to go ice skating, Lee replied he would have given the youth permission to skate if he had asked for it. But Lee continued, "You know, our Southern people are very poor, and to send you to college, your parents must be forced to deprive themselves of many things." And the boy choked up. "Stop, General Lee. You will never see me in your office again." Partly to adjust the school's curriculum to the needs of the impoverished South, Leigh proposed changes during his first meeting with the trustees in 1865. 3 were promptly adopted. Natural philosophy was bisected into 2 departments, physics and chemistry, for a net gain of 1. The second new department of applied mathematics evolved into engineering. Finally, he launched a 3rd discipline of modern foreign languages. Later, he formed the nation's first journalism department and added a business program, thereby providing Washington College with both a liberal arts and practical education platform, thus anticipating Henry Grady's pivotal New South movement that emphasized industrialization and commerce as the keys to the South's post-bellum prosperity, rather than a solitary focus on agriculture. He also won support for those goals from Northern philanthropists such as Cyrus McCormick and George Peabody. Leigh had genuine concern for the freedmen. In a rare 1868 public statement prior to the formation of the carpetbag regimes, he joined other Southern leaders by signing a manifesto affirming, quote, "The idea that the Southern people are hostile to the Negroes is entirely unfounded. They have grown up in our midst, and we have been accustomed from childhood to look upon them with kindness," close quote. When Washington's radical Republicans required that the Southern states hold conventions to write new constitutions, Leigh's biographer, Douglas Southall Freeman, wrote of the general's often requested opinion about Virginia's convention. Quote, "Although he did not so state in plain words, but left it to be inferred that if the convention decided it should enfranchise Negroes in order to procure the readmission of Virginia into the Union, the people should endorse this action," close quote. The long line of W&L alumni from 1865 to the present has never failed to support the school that transformed them from students into trustworthy citizens. Leigh's memory is largely responsible for that tradition. It takes no more courage to attack tradition than to offer to fight one's grandmother. The truly courageous person is the one who defies the tyrannies of an ever-shifting zeitgeist. I'm Phil Leigh, and thanks for watching.